1. The rack. The rack was a medieval torture device that stretched a person's body by pulling their limbs, often dislocating joints and causing immense pain. Iron Maiden. The Iron Maiden was an enclosed iron cabinet with spikes inside. Victims were placed inside, and the spikes would impale their bodies without causing instant death. 3. Waterboarding. Waterboarding is a form of torture where water is poured over a cloth covering the victim's face, simulating drowning and causing extreme fear and distress. Step 4. The breaking wheel. The breaking wheel was a brutal method where victims were tied to a large wheel and their bones were shattered with a hammer or iron bar. 5. Thumb screws. Thumb screws were a small torture device designed to crush a victim's fingers or toes by gradually tightening screws, causing intense pain. 6. The brazen bull. The brazen bull was an ancient Greek torture device where victims were placed inside a hollow brass bull and a fire was lit beneath it, roasting them alive. 7. Pillory. The pillory was a wooden framework with holes for the head and hands where victims were publicly humiliated and sometimes physically abused by passers-by. 8. Scaphism. Scaphism, also known as the boats, involved trapping a victim in a boat or container, coating them in honey, and exposing them to insects, leading to a slow, agonizing death. 9. Chinese water torture. Chinese water torture involved dripping water steadily onto a victim's forehead, driving them to madness through constant, rhythmic sensation over a prolonged time. 10. The pear of anguish. The pear of anguish was a device inserted into the mouth, rectum, or vagina, then expanded using a screw, causing severe internal damage and extreme pain. 11. The strappado. The strappado involved suspending a victim by their arms tied behind their back, often dislocating the shoulders due to the weight and causing immense suffering. 12. Sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation is a psychological torture technique where victims are kept awake for extended periods, causing disorientation, hallucinations, and severe mental distress. 13. Force feeding. Force feeding is the act of making a victim ingest food or liquids against their will, often causing choking, vomiting, and internal harm. Electric shock torture. Electric shock torture involves applying electrical currents to a victim's body, causing intense pain, muscle spasms, and sometimes permanent damage. 15. The Judas cradle. The Judas cradle was a pyramid-shaped seat where victims were lowered onto the point, causing severe pain and internal injuries as they were gradually impaled. 16. Branding. Branding involved heating metal to sear a mark or symbol into a victim's skin, causing permanent scars and intense pain, often used to punish or identify criminals. 17. Sensory deprivation. Sensory deprivation is a psychological torture method where victims are isolated and deprived of sensory inputs, such as sight or sound, leading to disorientation and mental distress. 18. Public whipping. Public whipping involved lashing a person with a whip in front of a crowd, causing physical pain and humiliation as a form of punishment or control. 19. Crucifixion. Crucifixion was an ancient method of torture and execution where victims were nailed or tied to a cross and left to die slowly from exhaustion or suffocation. 20. The Spanish donkey. The Spanish donkey was a wooden torture device shaped like a sharp V. Victims were made to sit on it with weights tied to their legs, causing severe pain as the device cut into them. 21. Forced standing. Forced standing is a torture technique where victims are made to stand in one position for long periods, leading to exhaustion, muscle pain, and physical breakdown. 22. The garrote. The garrote was a method of execution where a metal collar tightened around a person's neck, gradually strangling them to death. 23. Flogging. Flogging involved beating a person with a whip or stick, often repeatedly, to cause severe pain, welts, and sometimes permanent damage or death. 24. Psychological torture. Psychological torture involves causing mental suffering through methods like threats, isolation, or fear-inducing scenarios, often leaving lasting emotional damage. 25. The cat o' nine tails. The cat o' nine tails was a whip with multiple knotted lashes used for flogging, designed to inflict maximum pain and leave deep wounds on the victim's back. 26. Sawing in half. Sawing in half was a brutal form of execution where victims were suspended upside down and sawn vertically through the body, causing an excruciating death. 27. Rat torture. Rat torture involved placing rats in a cage or container on a person's body and heating it, forcing the rats to burrow into the victim's flesh to escape. 28. Stress positions. Stress positions involve forcing a person to maintain painful, unnatural positions for long periods, leading to muscle strain, exhaustion, and physical torment. 29. Bamboo torture. Bamboo torture used the natural growth of bamboo plants to pierce the body of a victim tied down over the shoots, causing a slow and agonizing death. 30. The heretic's fork. The heretic's fork was a double-pronged device placed between the chin and chest to prevent the victim from moving their head, causing great discomfort and psychological stress.